But what hasn't changed is the risk, whether it be malicious or negligent, of the insiders and the people that are now working very remotely with workloads everywhere, with unmanaged devices. This is, to me, the biggest opportunity that we have as practitioners is to help our companies, to help our customers avoid this seepage of valuable information out of their enterprise.
Welcome to another episode of Discover Disruptions in Tech. I'm your host, Howard Holton. And this week I'm here with the DeepWatch CEO, John DiLullo. John, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Howard.
Yeah,
nice to be with you today.
First day of Hacker Summer Camp.
That's one way of putting it.
Right? How long have you been coming to Black Hat?
Oh, probably 15 years at least. And
Wow.
DEF CON too.
And DEF CON as well. Are you going to DEF CON this week?
I'm not. I've graduated.
Yeah. I still go, but I'm spending less and less time at the circus event.
I get it.
Right?
You have to have, there's plenty of pizza to go around.
That's true. I mean, there's a million people there now.
Yeah.
It's not quite as fun as it was when it was at the Rio or at the Riviera or at I can never remember the OG hotel that it was at, but
You're dating yourself.
But it was, it's just never been that fun. The most fun I ever had was at the Riviera one year. The roller derby girls were next door. My wife knows a bunch of roller derby girls, so a few of us went over.
I'm going to take the fifth
all
on
of
that
a sudden, it was a mixed conference.
I'm taking the fifth on that one, Howard. I have no memory of this.
I know. Anyhow, it's not quite the same that it used to be, although neither is Black Hat.
I think it's a great conference, though. There's a lot. You get to see a lot. It's a much more of a practitioner orientation than some of the other shows, and I really appreciate that. I mean, that's where the rubber meets the road.
Yeah, right. That's always been kind of the focus on RSA. You're more likely to encounter a CISO than RSA.
Yep.
But it's also more GRC, right? It's governance, risk, and compliance, where you got some hardcore practitioners here at Black Hat.
I also get to drive to RSA.
That's
true.
true.
I live in the Bay Area.
That's true. So what do you think of the temperature?
In the Bay Area?
No, here.
It's 100 and whatever. Yeah, it's
109.
It's quite warm.
It's insane. Thank God for modern air conditioning.
Yeah, but it's a dry heat.
Sure. That doesn't help when it's a dry heat, like opening your oven and sticking your head in.
Not at all.
Right. So tell me about what's got you excited.
Well, about the show or about in
about
general?
Technology in general.
I just love the place that we find ourselves at. I think that if there's one thing about security, it's always been a numbers game, and it's been the volume of alerts and the amount that I have to data I have to ingest, and the amount of different types of attack vectors I need to prevent adversaries from accessing. And we're just getting such a tailwind from AI. I think AI is turning out to be one of those things that is really helping the cause of the people trying to defend their infrastructure and their data assets. Now, it's also helping the attackers, and it's probably might be even doing them, might be enabling them from a speed perspective. But the amount of investment that we need to make when we're able to leverage a lot of this tech is really helping, I think, the average customer out there these days.
Sure. I mean, I would say that AI is a triple-edged sword, right?
It's the third edge.
Well, the first edge is it helps the defender, right? Integrating the tool stack helps the defender. Yep. We get some wonderful automation, and we get automation that can finally understand the use of language, the connotation, the intonation, from users submitting tickets, right?
Yep.
It's always been a problem. So that's great. That's the first sword. The second sword is the unfortunate one. It also, in every possible way, it helps the defender, it helps the attacker, and in many ways, they're faster than the defender, right? They're very, very, very fast at adopting new tools. They're very fast at building new tools. They're very fast at perverting things. At the same time, the third edge, which we really haven't seen before, is a bigger edge than ransomware. Right, boards are aware of AI. It makes national news. The Wall Street Journal is reporting on AI-based attacks. The Wall Street Journal is reporting on the North Koreans using deep fakes to get jobs in the U.S. Right, that raises the conversation to the board level. And the number of times we've had the board come to us with questions about a relevant security topic is relatively rare. Ransomware is the biggest one I can think of. And I think AI has the potential to be 10, 20, 50 times bigger, more dangerous than ransomware. And so I think that's the third edge, right? It gives us that that conversation piece to go, no, in order to defend against these things, this is what I have to do for us to take this seriously. And failure to do that means we're not taking it seriously. And that's okay, because you're the board, you make the ultimate decisions. My job as the CISO is to advise you on risk.
And we've talked about this before, but the disconnect between boards and practitioners is enormous, that abyss. One of the things that I think AI is doing is really making the information about your risk profile much more accessible to people that are laymen, the people that are board members. And I actually think AI will help bridge that gap. Instead of the CISO coming into the boardroom with a long list of things they did, now they can come in with essentially a third-party generated report, which happens to be happens to be an LLM, but that gives you a much more objective view of, am I safe? Are the assets of this company that whose charter I'm responsible for, whose well-being I'm responsible for, is it safe? And we're able to answer that question in somewhat of a more objective tone than I think we've been able to before because of AI. That's how we're leveraging it with our customers. We're the ability to do auto summarizations, the ability to just the I guess you would call it homologation or putting everything in the vernacular, in a similar vernacular from one incident to the next, is taking out that human element. Humans, we found in our environments, in our MDR environments, sometimes the humans were spending 30% of their time on wrap and on documentation of what they just did. That's been reduced to seconds now. That's a big deal.
Well, and eventually, not only will the AI do that for every ticket, which it can do today just fine, but the AI will do that for every ticket, for every persona.
For all time.
Correct.
So I can look back now and say, where have I seen this before? So I've discovered something. Have I seen this before? Is there possibly somebody else in my environment that's already been compromised?
Yeah, for sure. Well, but additionally, how I want to see it as a security analyst is different than how I want to see it as an IT engineer. Because let's say a lot of these things have a shared responsibility model, right? So I have different questions as a security analyst when I'm wearing that hat than I do when I'm an IT engineer, which is different than when I'm the VP of infrastructure, which is different than if I was the CTO, which is different as the CISO, the CIO, the CEO, the COO, blah, 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 right? And the beauty that the LLM would offer is the ability to have a conversation using the same source data, but the output matches the needs of the very specific persona at the time asking the question.
Now, I think some of your audience may not grok 100% of what you just said, but let me put it this way for all of them. If you want to write a love note to your wife or spouse or partner, you can, and they would all understand this, you can put it in the voice of Edgar Allan Poe, and William Shakespeare, in Charles Manson, and Ted Kaczynski. You can pick the voice that you want the communication delivered in. We have that same opportunity inside the security operations, cyber operations, and it's changing everything. It's making what we do so much more approachable.
Yeah, it's an amazing tool. It is the greatest tool I think humans have invented since the printing press, I would argue.
It's that big. Yeah, I got to agree with you.
And I'm sure we just lost half the audience. Let me explain for 1 second. What the printing press did was it fundamentally changed how knowledge was spread among humans. Before the printing press, it was scribes that hand translated things. So forget about mistakes for a minute. Forget about the scribe that wrote book for hundreds of pages, or the ones that inserted some other book at the 80th page and then did that for 50 more pages before going back to the book. Forget about the malicious attacks. Hackers have been around forever. But instead, think about it. Who employs the scribes? The church does. So who decides what the scribe translates? The church does. Who decides what the price of books are? The church does. And if it takes someone a year to transcribe a book, to make one single copy, you get in situations where the wealthiest people in the world have a prized collection of 12 books. All of a sudden the printing press comes along, and now knowledge, information is democratized. What AI is doing is democratizing education, democratizing that communication, because it can take any work that's ever been done and put it in the language that's best for you, for what you need at the time, for how you want to learn, for what works for you. And that is as fundamentally important in my mind, right?
And it is so exciting. If we had been born 15 years earlier, we would probably not live to see what's about to happen in the next 5 years, which is that amazing.
We'd miss it.
Touch every element of the human experience.
What's neat is I actually feel bad for people who weren't born at the time we were born. I'm just going to make an assumption we're about the same age. We're probably within half a decade of each other at the very most. We don't need to get into the numbers game.
I'm really, now you've piqued my interest, though. So
I'm 48.
We are not within a half a decade, but I'm flattered.
Okay, well, you could have just said yes. The audience wouldn't know the difference.
I'm not a tree. You can't count the rings.
But we still grew up at a time where we saw all of this stuff evolve. And that's a really rare thing, right?
It's big.
To go from
it's
3 channels on television.
This is the best one.
Right.
Now, the security thing has been around for a long time. There's been slant drilling in oil fields forever, right?
Sure.
This is not a new thing, theft and mischief. What I think is new, and I don't know what the audience feels, but there is I believe, an awakening right now to the reality that maybe 0 days are starting to count down, and there's a little bit less porosity in people's networks, and security in the cloud is a little bit better than when people had their own servers and they were responsible for patch management. But what hasn't changed is the risk, whether it be malicious or negligent, of the insiders and the people that are now working very remotely with workloads everywhere, with unmanaged devices. And this is to me the biggest opportunity that we have as practitioners is to help our companies, to help our customers avoid this seepage of valuable information out of their enterprise through no malice at all, no adversary, no foreign actor, just through carelessness or bad policies, bad practices. And so I think that's one of the best things about MDRs. We see it all.
For sure.
And we can share. We're seeing unusual behavior by this person. We have impossible work locations where we believe this person is using a VPN. We believe this person is traveling somewhere where they're not supposed to be, or that this person has copied their disk, or they're using a mouse jiggler, or we have it.
Sure.
We have it all. And that is still more than half of all the data loss in the modern enterprise happens exactly that way, without an adversary.
Sure. I mean, I would challenge that statistic. I don't think it's more than half. I think it's way more than half.
Way more.
I think we only catch half, right? I mean, think about all of the kind of shadow workloads that happen. Every time someone emails themselves data that we didn't really want to leave, or texts it to themselves, or copies it to a USB drive or something,
Yep.
and then emails it back in.
It's
Right?
no malice at all necessarily,
Correct.
but all I have
But
to
it's still
do
risk.
generally is change. It's so easy today to take a document, to change it from English to French, or to American Indian, or to Laotian, or whatever, transmit it to myself, translate it back, and there you have it. And it's just too easy to defeat the legacy solutions that are in place. I think better solutions, MDR type solutions around risk, is an area where companies are really going to get the most bang for buck.
I mean, I would argue that DLP doesn't really work to the level of completeness we want it to work.
Yeah.
Right?
I would second that.
Right. It's unfortunate, and I don't think it's the fault. It's a really, really, really hard problem to solve. Like, it is so epically hard to solve that problem, right? Instead, we can't take a single approach, and a single tool is not likely to ever be a one-stop shop for solving that problem.
I think the promise of DLP never materialized.
Sure.
But risk assessment of your workforce is a tried and tested path.
Sure.
I can tell the people that care and the people that don't care by their behaviors. And I do think we can do a solid for our companies by making sure that we're better shepherds, better stewards of their information assets.
I mean, I've been arguing for like a decade. We only need GDPR. Anybody like GDPR? I don't like GDPR. It's a pain. However, we only need it because we're terrible custodians of our customers' data. If we had done the right thing from the beginning and not the expedient thing, GDPR wouldn't exist.
Fair enough, but you also need adjudication. You need somebody to tell you what is and what isn't sensitive sometimes, right? That's part of GDPR.
Kind of. But GDPR canonizes what we should have already been doing.
Oh, fair enough.
You know what I mean? Companies like GDPR didn't invent the idea of a data steward. Right? GDPR says everyone has to be a data steward, and you have to have a defined data steward for each type of data and each workload and each data source. Right? Companies had already had data stewards.
What I do like now is, and we're finding a lot of success in our infrastructure, people are nervous about what are you doing with my data when you're exercising these AI algorithms on it? Are you sharing it back with the host? And the answer in our case is a hard no. But more than that, it's that the world seems a little bit more ready for this technology and knows that, well, I can't send that to an LLM because it contains too much sensitive information, and the world, and by that I mean certainly our analysts, people that are working in the information sciences, have seemed to figure that out. And there's a lot of good products out there that can really help you get all the benefits out of Gen AI without a lot of the risk.
I'm not sure there's a lot of products. We've analyzed a bunch of products, but there's a lot of effort being put in to make the problem of onboarding and offboarding less of a problem.
I think there's awareness.
There is 100% awareness.
And that awareness is going to help us.
100%. 100%. And there are a lot of companies trying really hard to find a good, reliable solution to that problem because it is really hard. And some of it is kind of DLP related in that you still have to identify when the data comes into the LLM before it touches the LLM, right? The input payload.
Yep.
What is the risk contained in that input payload? Does it match a policy? What does that policy say to do? How easy is this to manage? How dynamic can this be? How elastic ultimately? Because we're still dealing with language. So there's easy things like, can we identify a social security number? Kind of. We're fairly good at identifying a social security number. Frankly, any 9-digit number, you probably should flag as a social security number.
Unless I convert it into base 4 or something like that.
Sure, but at that point, you're acting with malice. Like, it's hard to make an argument that you have to send a social security number to the LLM, right?
Fair enough.
And you can reasonable pseudonymization tools can adopt their technology to also be good onboarding and offboarding, right? Because you could pseudonymize the data, replace it with a variable. The AI doesn't care at all, right? If you double curly bracketed and said social security number because for some reason you had to include it in what you sent to your end user, the AI is not your end user, right? So you could easily do a substitution for a variable. The AI knows how to deal with variables because it's really aware of software development. It will send it back. The tool could then replace the variable and move on with its day, right?
I mean, in the end, though, I think you've got to agree with what hopefully is emerging wisdom, that we are making this tragic thing. Like, the cyber tax on the world is like $8 trillion a year. I heard it recently compared to the GDP of Italy and Germany.
Sure.
And it's just unfathomable that we're having this drain on our economy, on our global economy. And if AI can make that drain, wouldn't it be nice to see that number go in a different direction after 30 years of just going in one direction?
It'd be nice to see the number go down, while at the same time the efficacy of security goes up.
Agreed, and I guess that's the promise of AI. I think a lot of the burden, a lot of the standardization, a lot of the interoperation between different tools. Everybody's struggling with 50, 60, 70 tools. That's one of the things that we're leveraging AI to do, which is to make that a much more uniform experience.
So that data normalization using AI is really useful.
People don't need to go standardize on one set of tools or try to figure out how to communicate to 15 different things. We are leveraging these tools to make it much easier to understand the telemetry that you're receiving. And so some of this burden on the enterprises, I have a vision. I think part of it includes leveraging the capabilities of MDR and democratized AI technology, as you mentioned earlier. But my vision is I would like to see companies start spending less on security. I think we're part of it. Most of our customers spend less the year after they embrace our technology than the year before. And
Sure.
And where else is that? How many of the vendors that you talk to outside, how many spaces are actually saving hard dollars 12 months later?
Everybody claims, but that's not actually your goal. Like, if I can re-paraphrase, your goal isn't to save you money next year. Your goal is to get to a point where every year there is more savings to be found. Every year we're adding efficiency. So it's not switch to us and save money, right? The goal is to change cybersecurity so that over time we're leveraging these tools and these efficiencies so that we all save money in all that we do while improving cybersecurity posture.
100%. And there is no competitive advantage bestowed upon the companies that spend more on cyber.
Right.
They're the only competitive advantage in years to the people that are safer.
Yeah.
And however you get there, it doesn't really matter. And I do think that AI and automation, or the combination of those two, is a big base of it.
So do you see? So I know the answer from my perspective, but I'm curious about your perspective. Do you see companies spending money to make it someone else's problem and not really increasing cybersecurity versus companies that embrace that it is a shared responsibility model, right? It is both operations and technology that share the responsibility of improving cyber. Do you see those getting a bigger bang for their buck than the ones that want to push it all towards cyber and make it someone else's problem?
Are you talking about like from a board level? Like at a board level, I'm trying to push this
So from a business strategy, right?
Okay.
There's kind of two, there's a million different things, but there's two kind of big buckets I see companies fall into. The first is, I will give you more money, just shut up and go away and make it better.
Right.
And I will give you money, but also we have some responsibility in this as well. We being operations.
Yes, I do believe that the only model that will work and scale is a shared responsibility model. There is you at the end of the day, you can't outsource it all because every company's intellectual property, their most crucial assets, they're very close to the people, the employees, the founders, the people that really give life to that business. And so I think you always need help. Understanding the topology, the map, where the risk areas are. I do think that this is a collaborative project between the provider of capabilities and tools and the people who are trying to keep their assets safe. And they know their assets, and they know the positioning of their assets, and they know the venue of their. They know all of that better than any of the people here at this conference would ever know, unless they were inside the business.
And even inside the business, the number of technologists that I work with that have no idea how the business makes money blows my mind. They don't know what the very users they support are doing, what they're attempting to get done. None of it.
Yeah, and so you have to understand that. I think you have to understand the business to the extent you can understand the segment, that you can understand the vertical, that you can understand what their competition is doing. The more you can understand, the more you can help craft an appropriate security policy and posture.
I tend to agree with you. I would take it a step further and say, if as a technology leader, you don't believe you need to own the business, you should just outsource everything. Because there are people that specialize in the tools at a scale your business cannot afford, and you're not adding value to your business by not understanding your business.
But you can't outsource everything, and you can't.
Sure,
and
but if you refuse to learn how your business runs and operates, you're basically outsourced. You're basically doing the same thing. You have to learn how your business operates. You really need that tribal knowledge within your technology teams to understand how your business runs.
Fair enough.
And that's really where you're going to provide value. A lot of the peers that I talk to, their big concern is that the board is someday going to go, we're just outsourcing everything. Bringing in Infosys, we're outsourcing everything. We're bringing in Tech Mahindra, we're outsourcing everything. And when I have seen that happen, it is 100% the fault of the leadership, because the leadership doesn't learn how the business runs and operates. So to them, they just go, well, Tech Mahindra's got 250,000 employees. At least we won't have a people shortage. They claim to have every skill under the bank.
I think I would challenge. I have nothing against their business model, because it's a viable business model. But I do believe that having practitioners that really understand the business, lightweight. I'm not big. It's interesting.
Sure, I'm not saying go 8.
No, that they have 250,000, and
right.
that's a story that maybe would resonate with certain boards. But I think truly understanding and grokking the security environment that you're trying to defend. You can be very lightweight. You can understand exactly where to put your emphasis. That's the model that we cater to. We want to understand our customers. We want to work with our customers. We want to give them equal visibility. All of our solutions, we have the same visibility. Our customers can see everything that our analysts are looking at.
Sure.
It's that level of transparency, and they help coach us. This is more important than that. This is less important than that. And yeah,
right.
And
they should, because they're supposed to have the tribal knowledge of how the business works, how it operates, what's important, and how they make money.
not all laptops are created equally.
That is so true.
Sir, it depends on whose laptop bag that goes into at the end of the
Very,
evening.
very true. And when my CEO, not at this company, just to be clear, not the GigaOm CEO, but at a prior company, my CEO was famous for losing his laptop. Got run over by a taxi cab, left in a taxi cab, left on the subway, like over and over and over again. I ended up trying to find if I could get the old Dilbert choke, the little cardboard laptop they use at Staples. It doesn't really do anything.
The one on the displays.
Yeah.
Well, that's good.
That's the one.
Maybe they would have done better. Who knows?
But all I can think of is the scene in the IT Crowd. I don't know if you watched that show. I highly recommend everyone. It's a British sitcom about the people that work in an IT company or in an IT department at a large corporation, and they convince the CEO, the new CEO, that his computer has a microphone and he can control it with his voice, and it just ends with him yelling into his mouse, "Hello, computer."
Reminds me of Star Trek 3. If you want to go there, computer. But that's now I'm showing my.
I do like some Star Trek then.
Only the odd number Star Trek movies were good.
Oh, I haven't heard that one before.
That's a fact.
I believe it. Rathacon, original. What were the ones that? Oh God, the Whales one was 6.
Undiscovered Country. The Whales was number 3. The Voyage Home.
Really?
Yeah.
You think the Whales was a good one?
I'm sorry, but the Whales was a good one. Yeah.
I'm not that big a Star Trek fan. I like Star Trek. My wife could sit here and do an entire podcast debating Star Trek.
Well.
I'm shocked how well she. Like, my wife is a softball player, like softball Hall of Fame, whole 9 yards. You're very prototypical jock. And about a decade ago, she got into Star Trek to a level that shocks me. I'm surprised she doesn't ask me to go on Star Trek cruises.
Well, Bill Shatner called me on the phone once.
Really?
It's a true story.
Was it a missed dial? Like, how did that work? This is much more interesting than the podcast all of a sudden.
Well, I'd hired Bill Shatner
Okay.
to do an event, ironically, in this hotel. Would
Oh,
you
no
believe
kidding.
that? So I hired him, and we hired him. He was all set up. We'd actually started to advertise it. He called back. He called me to apologize. He's not going to be able to make it, but he'd been asked to host a beauty contest in Japan instead. And he said, I know you'll understand, but I'm going to have to take that option instead.
That is the most Bill Shatner thing I've ever heard. So I didn't like him for the longest time. And he did a magazine interview of a magazine I subscribed to, and he's on the cover, and I, like, in my memory, and I'm sure it's wrong, he's sitting in like the David pose,
That's
the
his
thinker
book
pose.
up till now.
Well, this was very specifically a magazine cover, and his pinky was sticking out, and he had a green fingernail on his
That's
pinky.
Vulcan coloring.
Yes. And I just went, that's interesting. So I read the article. I wouldn't have read it otherwise. But I went, that's kind of weird and interesting, and I want to know why it's weird and interesting. And effectively what he said was, he'd never meant to be what we think of as, Shatner. That kind of very, very, very firm cadence. That he went on this show, and it was a lark, and he didn't really have a lot of respect for it, and he was kind of having fun with it. And then everybody kind of accepted it, and when he started pulling it outside of the show, people also kind of accepted it. Mm-hmm. And he just kind of went, this is fun, I'm curious how far I can take this. And so it started as a bit of a lark, as a bit of a, like, him having fun with Hollywood, and turned into a 50-year running joke of him having fun with Hollywood.
Well,
and I went, all of a sudden I respect that guy.
In
all
his
of a sudden
book,
I
he
get it.
talked a lot about the fact, he said, I've been fired 400 times. And he said, as an adult, the sooner you get used to the fact that you're going to have more rejection in your life than you are going to have victories, you'll be a happier person. And I think he's, at least if you believe what's written, it sounds like he's got a pretty good setup there, that he's sort of figured his life out.
I mean, for those of us on the other side of the curtain, he certainly seems to.
Yeah.
Right? But really good advice. Really good advice. Get used to rejection, because you're going to hear a lot more than you hear yes.
I'll try and pull this back to cyber, but it's a cliche at this point, but they only have to be right once, and you have to be right every single time.
Yeah, for sure.
And so this is a law of large numbers that we're dealing with, but I will also say that the better you set your company up for success, the more secure, the better the posture that you're able to establish. Attackers will go somewhere else. They're going to go to the softest target, and making sure that you're not that target. And cyber can't be something you also do. You need to have dedicated people that are knowledgeable, that understand what they're doing. You need to have companies that provide the types of technology-enabled services that we do. That
ecosystem of capabilities, right? You can't have a perfect capability in everything. That's not the job of your business. You need to be good enough to understand your business, understand what you need, understand how to defend it, and then increase your ecosystem of capabilities outside of your four walls to include those people that are actually
because
partners.
A lot of the people that you have inside those four walls, you may have a crisis one day. The likelihood that these people have seen that exact crisis before is low. And when they're dealing with this critical moment, this is new territory for them. They may be the best, but there is no experience matters, right?
Sure.
And so having partners that you engage with that have the experience, that it isn't their first time doing it. I was in a tropical an island in Cancun a couple of years back. And there was a forecast hurricane coming.
Oh.
And what is the first thing you do when there's a hurricane coming? People get out and the maintenance people start cutting down all the coconuts.
Sure.
And I'm like, I would never think to do that, though. I'd put up the hurricane shutters. I'd make sure the water lines are secure. I'd make sure to communicate with everybody. But the very first thing they do is cut down the coconuts. Do you know why?
Because they become
like missiles. And once the wind starts to pick up, you can't get up in the trees.
Right.
So the very first thing you do is cut down the coconut. Experience matters. In security, you have to cut down. I hope everybody, you have to cut the coconuts first when you're under attack. And that's something that we do that just this matter of circumstance. We know exactly what to do in the order to do it. And we have all the run books and the playbook. And we keep our customers safe and secure. And I know that's the higher purpose of everything that you're doing too, is just to make this scourge a little less
scourge-like. Yeah,
scourge-like. Right. Better. Yeah, that's a word.
Yeah, it is now. We said it.
We coined it.
It seems fungibility of language is the way things work now. The moment literally meant literally and figuratively together. I was like, okay, I don't know the world I live in anymore.
Good deal.
Well, this has been a lot of fun.
And there's so much more we could have covered.
For sure. Well, thank you very much for joining us.
Oh, thank you.
So this has been another episode of Discover Disruptions with Tech. Please like, comment, subscribe, share, and we'll see you on our next episode.